What is the creepiest, most disturbing internet rabbit hole you've ever gone down and why? Blogs by people who are obsessed with losing limbs and or having them replaced with hooks, etc. Some went through with accidents where they mashed their hands beyond repair in order to achieve their goal. Reminds of that guy from South Africa who had a blog I came across a few years ago. His thing was amputations. And he badly wanted to get his perfectly healthy foot amputated for whatever reason. He felt like it did not belong to his own body. He would inflict injuries to his foot, cut it with a knife and put it in a bucket full of his own poop to cause infection. It was all documented, with daily pictures. You could literally see the daily progression of his foot rotting and becoming black. Until he stopped posting. He came back a few weeks later and wrote he almost died. He had passed out because of a bad case of sepsis blood infection and his landlord found him in the bathroom. Crazy stuff. And yes, he came back from hospital with his foot amputated. Success. The emotional whiplash made me laugh way harder at this than I should have. This will sound mild compared to the stories of actual torture and war crimes. But I heard the whole story about a Reddit user named Jason Inhill. For those who don't know, it was the real story of a man who posted in our relationships about his wife cheating on him with a neighbor. Jason finally decides he is going to leave his wife and take the kids with him. But then the wife actually murdered the children while he was away at work. Jason made a follow-up post about dealing with the pain and grief of what happened, but he seems to be doing his best despite everything that happened. Next spoke over this. It's SP heartbreaking. Looking up pictures of people who hit the ground after falling from great heights. I looked it up mostly out of morbid curiosity. Definitely would not recommend for anyone with a weak stomach. One of the worst things I have seen is a video of a guy trying to commit suicide by jumping off a building, but he lands on one of those big concrete bollards and it literally goes inside him. There was even a close-up in the video of him still alive with this huge lump in his shoulder from the top of the bollard. Oh poop, I remember that one. It went through his entire body and it shook me when he remained alive. Those couple of minutes must have been horrific. Deaths on Mount Everest and how a lot of the bodies are still up there. This was a wiki rabbit hole I fell into after listening to the Cassophile episode on David Sharp. It read not only about him but also Green Boots, this couple that got separated, etc. Due to the extremely cold temperatures. The bodies aren't that decomposed, so they still look recent even though it has been years or decades. It is creepy and sad. Some bodies have been there so long they're used as markers for climbers. What is also sad is that there have been efforts to remove them. But doing so is extremely dangerous because of the altitude, temperatures, and uneven ground. People have died attempting it in the past. Not sure if they've managed to succeed since I last read about it in 2018. It is absolutely fascinating and disturbing to read as a mountaineer. In 2010, I was just above Camp 3 on the Aconcagua tallest mountain in the Americas when I got lost in a blizzard. I had altitude sickness. I was so weak, exhausted and now lost, that I got stuck in a big snowdrift and just sat down. I closed my eyes and one of my last thoughts was how peaceful everything was. It is scary how close I came to being a frozen corpse on a big mountain. I am so lucky that the guide I was with managed to find my tracks before they got filled in. Made it down alive. Is it morbid that I am happy or that your almost last thoughts were peaceful? I like to think that the people who died on Everest also had peaceful thoughts before they passed. Saudi Arabia's leading executioner Mohammed Saad al-Beshi. He mostly decapitates people with a sword. I watched read interviews with him. I wanted to know if that poop haunts him. No, it doesn't. He is already teaching his son to follow in his footsteps. His children also help him clean the blood off his sword. Then I started looking into what was considered capital offenses and other punishments used. Stoning is one. Certain crimes will get the beheaded body crucified. If I am getting beheaded and crucified, that is the order I did prefer. I did also rather it was an experienced expert who was likely to not mess up the first attempt. Unit 731. What they did is really backed up. In other tests, subjects were deprived of food and water to determine the length of time until death, placed into low-pressure chambers until their eyes popped from the sockets, experimented upon to determine the relationship between temperature, burns, and human survival electrocuted, placed into centrifuges and spun until death, injected with animal blood, exposed to lethal doses of X-rays, subjected to various chemical weapons inside gas chambers, injected with seawater, and burned or buried alive. Cave diving accidents. They are always tragic and sad and insanely common in the community due to the dangers of cave diving. But they have been to some of the most untouched areas of Earth, and I kind of get the need to keep exploring even if it is dangerous. There are some not too graphic videos on YouTube of recovered footage from divers that recorded their last dive. An especially heartbreaking one was a dude who dived to recover the body of a friend who died in a cave, and ended up dying there too. You can see him slipping on the floor, fumbling a knife while trying to cut some kind of rope. The panic setting in. Just terribly sad. A straightforward guy wrote down his experiences with heroin. Basically, he wanted to try it for fun and he was sure that he had enough willpower to stop after that. Well, he was wrong. Probably someone can remember the name of the guy or the Reddit post. It is fairly well known, I believe. Same thing happened on a Norwegian forum. Some guy asked how to shoot up, and the thread turned into a years-long diary of him becoming an addict and failing to quit. Then he just stopped posting, and some time later it was revealed he had died. Turned into a media case for a while. His mom was interviewed and stuff. I have fallen down too. Both lasted about a week. First was John Jane Does who have never been claimed or identified. Second was people who have disappeared without a trace. I feel this one tugged more on my emotional strings. Especially stories involving kids. One that has stuck with me is a little boy who disappeared on a scout hike. Jared Negrete. That is one of my greatest fears when they take kids hiking. It was the kid's first time sleeping away like that. Heartbreaking. Pulled up a site once that had pictures of celebs that were taken after they died. The most prominent one I remember being that of Chris Farley. That is something I will never forget. My brother killed himself with a friend last Halloween while hiking Mount Rainier. Their bodies were discovered by some hikers who proceeded to upload pics of their bodies to a gay death fetish site. I guess some info got out. But now every week I get people contacting me about his body, asking me if I have more pics or blaming my family for his death through whatever social media they can find, mostly his memorial page. It can be extremely mean. It does not bother most of my family much, we know how to deal with trolls and perverts. But it destroys my mom. Never forget the purpose of the communities you visit. To you, that celebrity sites is just a passing curiosity. But this is a site with an active community that seeks out corpses to wank to. They are highly dug up at best, and are likely extremely dangerous considering some of these threats I have gotten. Now that is truly beyond dug up, and I am sorry that is happening to you and your family. The murder of Junko Furuta. Just read it. Those kids are literal ducking demons. Even most cartel tortures don't last that long. Poor girl. Literally suffered for absolutely nothing. And to think that the kids that did it are still out today. Fear-free. What the duckety duck duck. Bug chasers. Because someone asked what the creepiest, most disturbing internet rabbit hole was. What the actual duck? I clicked on this expecting mutilated insect porn. But I guess the internet likes to throw curveballs. Elaborate please. All I am thinking of is big exterminators or doctors who specialize in insects then wed huge insects from Australia. Researching attachment therapy. As used on kids diagnosed with attachment disorders, ACA holding time. Compression therapy. Coercive restraint therapy. Rebirthing. I do not feel like typing out the details, but to quote from Wiki and is below. It is messed up and has resulted in several child deaths and lots of long-lasting trauma. I have no idea why I kept reading and watching videos, etc. But I spent an entire night researching it. It was horrifying. Maybe I felt like I owed it to the victims to read their stories. I do not remember. A central feature of many of these therapies is the use of psychological, physical, or aggressive means to provoke the child to catharsis, ventilation of rage, or other sorts of acute emotional discharge. To do this, a variety of coercive techniques are used, including schedule holding, binding, rib cage stimulation for example, tickling, pinching, knuckling, and or licking. Children may be held down, may have several adults lie on top of them, or their faces may be held so they can be forced to engage in prolonged eye contact. Sessions may last from 3 to 5 hours, with some sessions reportedly lasting longer. There is a ducking name for this. This happened to me. Reactive attachment disorder youth here. Hi. Thank you for giving me the title of this treatment. It will help me explain things. Many people seem to react as if I am exaggerating when I mention poop from foster care. I feel weird now. I am going to go try and take a nap. A CFE timeline PDF I found a while back. I think it was on the World Building sub. It was the timeline of humanity that started it off relatively normal, detailing human evolution as they colonized Mars and the stars beyond. It descended into body horror when they came into contact with an advanced race that for some reason I forget gene modded the majority of humans into non-sentient species and seeded them across the galaxy. It then went into great detail with each of these species separately and their climb back to sentience. It ended with one of the new humans that evolved back to sentience standing beside our original human skull. I have not been able to find it since, but poop got dark. Edit, I found it again. It is all tomorrow's A billion-year chronicle of the myriad species and varying fortunes of man. I once found a fetish forum for people who collect STDs and deliberately infect others as it turns them on. Full-on discussions about which hookers to bear back to get the complete set. Really freaked me out more than B0G or Get Cetera ever did. I can't even remember how I found it. I backed away quickly and never looked back. Edit, this is now my most upvoted comment. Thanks Reddit. I corrected it to B0G. Org. I was also thinking of the Something Awful website. Comments below reliably inform, although I am not googling bug chasers. I read about the Japanese concentration camps being especially horrible on Reddit, and it was extremely depressing and ducked up, but I could not bring myself to stop reading. The tragic tale of Junko Furuta made me sick and cry while I was reading her story. Very true. I feel sick to my stomach whenever I read about it. Damn. I wish I remember his name. Years ago I watched a video on YouTube of Elvis' last phone call, which was recorded. In the comments there was this guy who had claimed to know Elvis personally and who went on about how he was in his final days. I grew very suspicious. I clicked his YouTube channel and found more comments on other dead celebrity videos of him claiming to be a family friend. I searched this guy's name and found his weird-ass ducking website. It was the most bizarre poop I have ever seen. It was full of long posts about how this guy was a lead designer and architect in some important buildings worldwide. It also chronicled all of his celebrity friends. Guy was definitely schizophrenic, I assume. Finding his website was just so odd. It is like looking into a portal into his mind. Since then I have become very interested in schizophrenia, and I have happened to stumble upon others who seem to have it. This one guy on LinkedIn is a writer. He goes on these rambles on his LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter about a girl who was killed. But his sentences are all circular. If that makes sense. Almost like talking with someone with dementia who keep repeating the same thing over and over. Except this guy has been doing the same thing for years. Just lost in a possible fairy tale. The mind is ducked. This guy once commented on my girlfriend's picture of her and her friends on Instagram saying you bitches will all burn in heck, praise God, or something like that. He had his name listed, but no photos or anything. I screenshotted it and shared it with some friends asking if they knew who the guy was. One of my buddies said he used to ride with him to middle school and that he would duck under the window so people outside the car couldn't watch him. I looked him up on Facebook and found multiple profiles, all with dozens of bizarre selfies. One having it to his YouTube channel, which had tons of hour-long videos. All of them were just total nonsensical ramblings about being perfect, God, virgins, and biology. There is something intriguing and disturbing about finding an online representation of someone's mental illness. It is public, yet a very private look into their deterioration. It is like finding an untreated schizophrenic's notebook full of ramblings. I saw a comment online from someone claiming to be the son of Lucifer Jesus. Checking out his profile was a pure trip into the delusion of someone who genuinely believes he is on some sort of God-given mission, and was pretty weird. This is not really that great of an answer as it is the first thing that comes to mind. But I watched a lot of To Catch a Predator footage early and covered. Those people are disgusting. And it is so weird to see some plain-ass dude be otherwise totally normal seeming, but have disgusting desires, and then turn into a lying machine when they get caught. That moment when someone realizes they're exposed. Millions of people are going to know, and they're also going to lose their career, job, family, friends, etc. is just a very complex, interesting and gross human reaction to see. There is a doc called The Bridge, which captured 23 of the 24 suicides from the Golden Gate Bridge in SF in 2004. Apparently the bridge is a wildly popular suicide site. By 2004, there had been more than 1,200 suicides, with a 98% death rate. Anyway, it is really dark and sent me on the little research expedition of the suicides. Apparently, the 2% that survive say they instantly regretted jumping mid-air, and that starts to make you think about suicides and how much pain people are in to take that step. And yet there is a shock of clarity once they have done the irreversible. Just reading about the desperation and sadness triggered so much in me. I really cannot go down those rabbit holes anymore. The group's talking sites and subreddit. Just to be clear, I do not think it is real, but holy shit. It is just so crazy thinking about how all these people are dead-ass convinced that there are massive conspiracies against them. I did not leave the on purpose because after spending any significant amount of time on there, you sort of start to think it could be real. Holy poop. And I thought I was crazy.